Ladies and gentlemen, innovators and visionaries, a very warm welcome to the 7th edition of the Global Capabilities Centers Summit 2025. Today, we've come together to embrace the spirit of collaboration, exploration, and transformation. This summit is not just an opportunity to discuss the future of GCCs, it is a platform where we will actively shape it. Together, we'll exchange ideas, forge meaningful partnerships, and pave the way for a future where GCCs not only thrive, but lead on the global stage. Without further ado, we are honored to welcome on stage our distinguished speaker for today's inaugural address. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Mr. Sanjeev Gupta, CEO, Karnataka Digital Economy Mission.
2.5 decade years old industry in India, the GCC, has changed the color of the economy all across the globe. Today, not even a single sector of the economy which is not being touched by the concept of GCC. Today, around 150 plus countries in the world have their GCC type of operations in India. That means the world's looking at a GCC concept from a region or from a sector perspective. The GCCs has become an important strategic initiative for their growth. And India is the GCC capital of the world. Thank you so much. It's a history of 2.5 decades where the GCCs started coming in India and in Bangalore actually. And from there, now we have 1,700 plus GCCs which operates in India. GCCs has progressed very well in this field. Today, the maturity curve of the GCCs has been defined by the Karnataka-based ecosystem. And the reason for this is that today, when you talk about deep tech, when you talk about of the cybersecurity, the AI, the generative AI concepts and etc., you will find that most of the GCCs are using that here. In fact, 150 Center of Excellence has been created. So to say, I would say labs and Center of Excellence has been created by GCCs in Bangalore in deep tech alone. And around 120,000 AI professionals are being used here in the portfolio of the GCCs in Karnataka.
Our next session today is on the GCC transformation, evolving to innovation powerhouses.
What are you seeing in terms of some of the innovations that GCCs are working on or you're helping with?
There are three different areas in which we see the innovations coming up. One is the entire data and analytics space. They are seeing huge analysis that is coming around in forecasting the next revenue models, or what would be the growth patterns, what could be the the forecasting for the next couple of quarters, and how to. The second is the revenue. What sort of revenue, new revenue channels can the Indian GCCs drive for the markets across the globe? So that's the second thing. And the third thing is the customer journey. How will we contribute to the customer journey? So we are seeing requirements in these three specific spaces where the leadership team is largely focusing. And the third part, when I say customer journey, they want the Indian GCCs to own it completely and also take it to the next level. So we as a technology service provider, for us, we see a lot of opportunity if we contribute in these three areas. One is data analytics, the second is bringing in the new revenue channels, the third is the customer journey. How will we help in the customer experience enhancement?
So thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, and thank you so much.
Please join me in welcoming on stage Bhaskar Roy, our client partner APAC at Fractal AI, who will share insights on reimagining leadership in the era of AI and automation.
4 key takeaways that I want everybody to look at. 1, encourage people to experiment, look at the use cases, understand what works for your business. Second, govern it responsibly. It is even more important today with generative AI being in a phase of explosion. Third, invest in the right places and hold yourself accountable to those investments. And then finally, prepare for what is coming. Prepare every single part of your organization for it. Evangelize and make them aware about what is possible. With these four combined, I'm sure all of you can lead your organizations to a position of leadership in the industries that you operate in. Thank you so much for your time. GCCs in India have been around for about 25 years now. During that time, they have evolved from being just pure cost centers and looking at driving down cost arbitrage to now where they're driving innovation for their global organizations. This switch is very imperative because now GCCs are an integral cog in what their organizations are doing to not just innovate on new products, but also look at ways in which they can improve customer service and improve back-end processes that help them reduce cost over time. This switch from a cost mindset to an innovation mindset is crucial for GCCs to not just look at their business, but also maintain competitiveness with respect to positioning within the company and other locations globally.
And now we move on to our next exciting panel discussion, Leadership in Action, India's GCCs as a catalyst for positive top-line impact in global enterprises.
How do you think HR and leadership in GCCs are shaping this paradigm shift?
The mindset is the first thing where the India head plus the HR, they need to work together, building a mindset that something can be done transformative from India and where some leaders can be developed who can move on to a global role. That mindset first established, then various other activities that HR can initiate. One probably, you can find out who are some of your high potential candidates in the company, and can you give them a cross-functional exposure? Can you send them to another GCC location or another region to learn about the A to G of the business?
What's happening in the marketplace? I think if you look at it, talent is one of the most complex aspects of our business. There are so many uncertainties with respect to talent. I think one thing that's very clear is the best always want to work for the best, right? So that's what we've learned in the last 50, 60 years when the Randstad is putting so much around what is happening. I think one thing what we are learning with respect to leadership pipeline and how can HR help is to constantly create a parallel business responsibility as a part of the equal one, right? So we call Fit for Growth. We have 4 to 5 programs. That's exactly what we tell our clients. We also do the same for ourselves. So rather than leadership as a paradigm PowerPoint related program, it has to be constantly correlated and cross-referenced with respect to the ecosystem. I think that Fit for Growth kind of a programs that what we adopt is genuinely doing it. It's also time for HR to reimagine right in this new area.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, all the panelists.
With the advent of technology and a lot of new technologies coming in picture, including AI and others, I think there's a need for all GCCs to upgrade and work on their talent pipeline. So one of the strategies I've seen some of our customers where they've partnered with some of the local institutes, maybe engineering institute or so, where they customize one of their semester in terms of what kind of people they would need in their operation. So that way they're able to get some ready talent pipeline. So that's one. Secondly, a lot of companies they're supposed to invest in upskilling, reskilling. One has to use some predictive tools to find out what kind of new skills will be required, say 2 years, 3 years down the line, and what is the current competency of the current workforce.
It is my pleasure to introduce Nitin Anand, Business Development Head, India, Multinational Corporations at Axis Bank.
GCC ecosystem is further evolving. We see that there are partnerships which are developing over the period of time. We identify to see that there are real estate advisors, IT service providers, policy makers, financial institutions, consulting firms, academia and research institutions, and probably there will more to be added in time to come. With financial institutions, I'll only say that they play a critical role in this entire partnership because they touch directly or indirectly each of the partner in the GCC ecosystem and therefore provide their contribution here. We discussed about the ecosystem from financial institution perspective, and this is just to reflect that through our involvement by means of our presence across various cities that GCCs are present in currently, or they look at growing in the time to come. Thank you so much for your time.
We as a country have a very, very huge pool of talented people at the age group which is conducive for all MNCs to transport their operations here, and I think that's an edge for us. The capability of thinking out of the box as all Indians, I think that's also another edge which India has. And as I said, huge demand. Where would you get a demand where there is availability of money and large demand, and also framework of the government which helps you to navigate your requirement as per the standards of the country. So all three you get in India. That makes India the hotspot for all GCC, I believe. And as far as my bank is concerned, we are a bank who's known for its digital capability, thinking ahead of time, and the platforms that we use and the products that we give are absolutely conducive to for the GCC market, and we expect that the companies to make use of our platform.
Now we're excited to move on to our next panel discussion, the digital road ahead. What's next in tech revolution?
So could you take us through your thoughts in terms of what you are doing for your organization and how you see things changing for the future?
So in a nutshell, from Qualcomm perspective, AI definitely is at the heart of everything which we are doing. And any product which is going to come out from now onwards or from last few years onwards has that capability of AI built in. Internally also in Qualcomm, everything which we are trying to do, we are trying to automate things. We are trying to reduce our time to market. Every chip which we develop probably can take up between 6 months to 9 months just for development time, right? Or 12 months even, if it's or 2 years for a very, very premium tier chip, right? We are trying to look at how we can use AI to reduce that time and then make it come back to market faster. Right?
So from our perspective, while there is almost very little for us to say that, hey, why don't you talk to our AI-based chatbot? As far as our customer is concerned, if he gets the answer, it doesn't matter whether it's a man behind the ATM or the ATM, right? For them, that's how it is. So that's how we are looking at using all of these technologies to cater to that audience. So we are seeing a phase where we are going to have to invest in all of this. The results will take its time. Till that point, we have to be able to cater to both the human needs of the person and the technical needs of the customer. And that's the dichotomy in which we see it rolling out technology.
With that, I think thank you very, very much to each of the panelists, and thank you to the audience.
GCCs has started this journey a few years ago, where they were considered largely for transaction-related activities or back office processes or application maintenance. I think over the last 4 to 5 years, they've actually got into a lot more mid-office, front office kind of work, and are driving some of those from the GCCs itself, or there are leaders sitting in the GCCs who are driving that. And I think part of it is happening because GCCs now, having got good visibility and experience of the larger organization, the ways of working, are able to identify areas where they can pitch in and drive this. The second is they're hiring good quality talent or working with the ecosystem partners to try and identify, how some of the value can be created for the organization. And I think the third and the most important one is that the GCCs have also learned the way of how to showcase this value that they're delivering for the larger organization. So it's a combination of identifying, making sure you've got the right talent and capabilities, and then obviously making sure that you're showcasing it and demonstrating the value that you're adding to the overall ecosystem. GCCs are using a set of strategies to stay competitive, but at the same time, I think the overall business case, because of currency depreciation, because of automation, and a bunch of other things, continues to stay intact.
In this discussion, we're about to delve into how GCCs are contributing to global life science strategies with a particular focus on their impact on accelerating innovations and improving healthcare outcomes.
In your experience, how do you bring that culture of collaboration and trust, which is so essential in a distributed work environment, particularly that which deals with complex science, technology, lots of kinds of media, some of them, very esoteric nature, like, understanding an image or certain sequences or expressions of certain genes. How do you manage this?
For any health sciences company, somewhere we are all here because we're obsessed with doing good for a patient and doing good probably for a doctor and therefore for a patient. Understanding that what we're doing today is going to have an impact on a patient or a doctor tomorrow is really, really important. So being able to be obsessed with the company purpose allows us to unite all of these cultural differences and these geographic differences and language differences.
Moving to Rishi, how does AI and related technologies help the life sciences GCCs move up the value chain?
Tech, business, but the human part, right? At the end, we all are humans. It boils down to how we are able to build the behavioral science muscle within GCC, within the organization. Looking at the behavioral element and how we can think about it as a muscle that we need to build together when we're talking about technology will ensure that we are continuously moving up the value chain, keeping human at center.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
We're pleased to present a session on the FSS GCC playbook, harvesting opportunities and navigating threats.
What should be the strategy of organizations when it comes to talent? And what can government do to support the GCCs a little more in this space?
Prashant, the story is also not going to be same for every GCC, right? It depends upon your own evaluation, right? But some of the embedded GCCs, I can definitely speak about mine, which is 20 plus legacy here. We have gone through the evolution. So we have already moved out of the cost arbitrage, right? Newer GCCs can also, and we have moved into the value system where you are doing end-to-end product development. You are also doing end-to-end support. And in fact, some of the functions around pre-sale supports and those kinds of things as well. So this thing will always be there. So we have many GCCs in I suspect, right, has already moved into a value and cost arbitrage will always be there, but it's not the primary driver anymore for those large or long embedded GCCs in the system.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, we are transitioning to our next segment on real-time real estate. What and how will data enable GCCs to scale?
About 50% of the world's GCCs sit out of India. 3 out of 5 Fortune 500 companies are based here and employing about 1.9 million people as we speak. Now, what does that translate to real estate in terms of demand? Real estate historically has been a very IT-driven sector. The absorption in the real estate space has been largely driven by the IT space. I think GCCs, as we were hearing, that they are the saviors for, I think, across industry segments because they are agnostic of whichever industry, right? So you could be any industry and you'd want to set up your GCC. Now, that has had a huge positive impact on how real estate is perceived in India today. Clearly, the absorption has gone up. 30% of the India market leasing today is by the GCC space. Thank you.
Now, as we move forward, we're excited to present our next session on global compliance or global chaos, navigating risk management strategies for GCCs.
Kanike, how does global compliance work? Specifically when you're operating, like in the case of your bank, in 38 countries.
When you're dealing with complicated, difficult things, the best way to do it is to keep it simple. Because otherwise you start tripping over yourself. So the way we do this is, it's a unified approach. So we have an industry taxonomy that we use. It's basically 16 themes. Every regulation that we have to comply with, falls into one of those areas. For each of those areas, we have dedicated SMEs. These are deep experts in those areas whose job it is to understand what's changing and then translate that into internal rule sets. Now, the important thing for us is that because we're a big bank and because we're responsible, there's a lot of systemic risk sitting with us. For us, our internal rule sets have to often go beyond what just the regulation is asking us to do.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Kanakya.
Thank you
you so much.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, now it's time to explore how GCCs can leverage the right technologies to scale their operations and stay ahead in an increasingly digital world.
As we speak, and Reddington as an aggregator, as a distribution organization, plays a very important role in terms of addressing many bottlenecks or challenges that a GCC would face in India. Obviously, the three very typical challenges that you have is a fragmented tech ecosystem, which means a GCC would obviously be looking at an integrated approach in terms of infrastructure, in terms of network, in terms of security, a hybrid setup. And that is where Reddington plays a role. Anything which is below the application is where Reddington plays a role. Challenges in terms of scaling, both on AI and cloud, and at the same time ensuring security. And of course, a return on investment is something which is extremely important. Thank you.
And now we're excited to move on to our next session this evening, a fireside chat on expanding horizons, real estate dynamics for GCCs in India's satellite cities.
What role do you think infrastructure and real estate play in the success of a GCC? I mean, from your perspective, right? Because you all come from such diverse backgrounds and such deep experience. How have you seen that evolve?
For any industry, infrastructure is very critical to develop. So when you have better infrastructure, you can pitch better for the new GCCs to come and set up, right? And that's the first thing anybody would see. Which also means that you want to attract the people from outside city to come and work for you. So when you have a better infrastructure, you can attract people as well.
Makes sense, makes sense.
So if we specifically talk about the infrastructure, so infrastructure means the overall ecosystem, that city provides. But other infrastructure also needs to be in place. Right, which plays a very crucial role in terms of right kind of, road network, right kind of, the residential areas, right kind of, social areas, which not only helps the company to decide, in terms of, selecting the location, but it also helps to attract the talent.
I think from a GCC perspective, if we are specifically talking from a GCC infrastructure, then I think it's the talent, where the talent is all across, and aspiration of the talent is.
Right.
And that's where this entire infrastructure comes in. Most of the 6 cities in the country today, I think, are the all grade A cities where their entire GCC ecosystems comes in. And the growth of the GCC is because of the growth of the talent. So that's where it all sums up.
Thank you, gentlemen. It was a pleasure sharing the dais with you.
And now, without further ado, we are transitioning to a very exciting session, a panel discussion on generative AI, redefining efficiency for GCCs.
1% between what is in production, what is in MVP or POC, and what percentage do you see in the innovation garage or kitchen?
For us, it's no more PPT. It's all about production. So
all production, 100%?
No, not 100%. Last year, we were doing demo and POC, but here, focus is more than 50% production.
Gen AI, you're saying,
Gen AI, yeah.
50% production. Rakesh?
I'll say generative AI.
Yes.
Not more so predictive and agentic. 25 to 30% production, rest discovery and POC.
Perfect.
I bring a different perspective to the table from a services side that caters. So I have a different definition of production to an MVP. It is from a financial services, it is in the sub-20s. From a regulatory lens, telecom clearly is leading, but somewhere in that range of 20% from production.
Yeah. Perfect. Alan?
Yeah, I think if I look at it like a pyramid, yeah, it's a wide pyramid. We would be around 20% in production, same in sort of development, and a lot around ideation and scoping.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I think from being a back office for the entire globe, we are now going to be transitioning into a different kind of a role. With the help of AI, we are going to make big qualitative changes in terms of what we bring to the table. We are going to be offering high value added advisory and consulting services to the globe. And I think another very important change that is going to happen is we are actually going to become a large consumption center by ourselves. So we have 1 out of every 7 people on the earth are actually Indians. And as we transition and as our economy grows, we are not only going to be producing services for the entire globe to consume, we are going to be producing services for our own internal consumption.
The 7th edition of ET Edge GCC Summit 2025 concluded on a high note with the Felicitation Awards recognizing exemplary contributions across industries.